Right on. So, welcome back to the Curia, Regis. I proclaim to myself here that what I do is righteous. That what I do is not for the benefit of my own persona, the name that I am, or the color of my skin. Rather, that the soul or the psyche itself would like to expand and grow in awareness of itself, such that its own creations are not lost, its own experiences are not lost, that it's properly related to what and who and that which it is. So, here is where you are. You are this cat, basically. And these pedals and these triggers and buttons and levers and everything that surrounds you, all these monitors, all these things are like the way in which you are interacting with your current life. These are all little buttons and switches and levers that exist within your internal system, and they are in charge of changing and creating your external reality. So, we know that the way we see the world outside of us is actually more reflective of the way that we see ourselves. And so, to begin to bring this new awareness of reality into our present lives, we have to know and feel and see, comprehend what it is that we can do in our internal system that changes the pattern, that are like these buttons and switches and levers that have the ripple effect for the rest of the world. And it's far more intuitive than we think, because we've always ever only been exactly where this cat is now within our internal system. This picture is a feeling. There is this aura that the fire has, and it is like a spark. It is like a kindling of life. We gather around the kindling of life. We gather around the spark because we know that something about this spark has something to say about who we are today. We're not always sure what it is that compels us to be drawn towards that spark, to be drawn towards the fire, to the flame. But we can describe the attributes, the colors, the way that it makes us feel, and that brings us closer into alignment with how, what, why. It brings us closer to the reality that is, closer to the source, closer to the emanation, to the dream that we are. The Master said, "I have transmitted what was taught to me without making up anything of my own. I have been faithful to and loved the ancients." It's from the Analects, so perhaps the words from Confucius. This is to say that for my own sake, I place myself under observation that my own influence can only be benevolent, and that I actually wish not to make proclamations, or declarations, or to project beliefs, to ask anything of anyone. Really just that those or that which is observing, witnessing the mystery can know and feel for itself, basically. And so that is how the master that I am learns. That is how the master that I am stays as a student. And it's actually a way of inward kind of absolute discipleship, or absolute submission to that which is, but that which is verifiably beyond my own comprehension. So life speaks to you, and you are the student of life. We see in this other diagram to the right here that there are this tree of life, and involution is the descent of spirit into matter, and evolution and devolution are the mechanical laws of nature. And then revolution is the ascent of spirit by revolting against the mechanical laws of nature. It basically is saying you do have this lifespan, but if you slow down, then that lifespan that you are has actually always existed. The slower, the more still that you are, the more still that you can be. You are activating this revolution of the spirit, and that is revolting against nature. You basically are saying, well, there's this normal intellecti or drive that everything around me seems to go by, which is kind of like, you could say like samsara, this evolution and devolution, born to die, this sort of thing. But the slower that you go, and the more present that your spirit is, you find that those realms you've always been linked to. You've always been linked to the realms of eternity or to heaven, and they just existed with you as a state of mind, always. And so more and more you can begin to condense, basically congeal your spirit body into the physical body that you're in, and it is the amalgamation of all of the events of your life and every belief and notion and every patterning and every conditioning and everything. It's all of what you believe yourself to be, but one step deeper, because it's who you really are, which is the observer of all of those events and everything that you consider to be yourself. And so the slower that you go, the more of that which is called the spirit body becomes embodied. And the spirit body is not afraid of death, because the spirit body has actually already conquered its own death, because it died to itself. It died to the ego that it believed itself to be. So it died to the small I, or the small me, which it always considered itself to be, and realized that which it was something completely non-temporal and non-mundane, and that it was completely separate from the horizontal realm, like we covered in the last lesson, that it has actually always been of the vertical realm, the being. So, at the advanced levels of mastery, when we are sincere, our mental atmosphere is put through rigorous observation, and we find that there is very little clarity amidst a lot of delusion, very little charity amidst a lot of savagery. We have all these things that we don't really wish to stay with us, but we are also terrified of letting them go. So the practices, the programs by the benevolent beings on high are gifted to us because they've been here. They've seen this. They've done this. They know. They know that the mental atmosphere can be transformed in the most benevolent of ways by letting go. That the faith, which is the unifying aspect that binds all things in creation together, it's basically like the Holy Spirit. They know that what that is what holds the spirit together after death. They aren't afraid of just dispersing into stardust and ash. They aren't afraid of non-existence because they know. They've spent enough time with themselves. They have allowed their mind to do its mental gymnastics, to do what it will. And then they have found that the sliver of light that they had within, that their eyes had, that their eyes carried, who they were, stronger and more powerful than anything else that the world threw at them. Always. 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 Spirit looks out over the land. Spirit is what you are. Spirit is the Lamb of God. Spirit's name is I am that I am. Spirit always exists. Our presence is the dream of that which exists. Our presence is that which exists. We are given this standpoint, this still point, from which everything else can be transformed, transmuted, recolored, repolarized, rejiggled. You are set in this place such that who you really are, the benevolence that you are, can transform the reality outside by first transforming the reality within. And that means that this master cat here is an alchemist. He's a magician. He has first had to work on himself. He has first had to know who he is so that his external reality will be in alignment with that which he knows. hastily disregard any such notion of higher intelligence, greater aspiration of wit and awareness, in the eternal, ever-present realms of existence, which are the realms of the liberated mind. Whosoever claims at once to have realized himself already has made a vast error. For the light quotient capacity of deliverance from suffering and of the realization of itself, the psyche, the being, is infinite potential itself. The present capacity, in its diminished state, asks of itself nothing, thinks of itself nothing. What is, very much is, as far as we are concerned. Thus, the deliverance was at once reliant upon the innate effort of the being, that one was to reunite with its true nature as a unique and immortal emanation of the source reality. The true name of God, your true name, is I am that I am. I am that I am. I am that I am. The mind now has been recreated in its own image. A feeling to the participant is that of spatial and innate awareness of the cosmic void, the womb of creation, which recreates you each millisecond to strengthen the atomic beingness which you proclaim yourself. Having discovered one's self-creation as a name, skin color, externality, etc., is the way in which the self dissolves its identity back into the voided space from whence it came. This space, at once, gives birth to the light of the being that you are, into your own superior existential bodies. The Divine Mother watches you day and night, and through her eternality and presence, helps you to create yourself in each moment that you are. She takes what you give her, irregardless, and sacrifices herself to your evolution for all of eternity. This Divine Mother is not separate from who you are, but is the very same subconscious mind that you indeed are, which holds the capacity of your beingness to grow into the realms in which all of creation exists as your own dreams. Each character and figure exists therein, that same loving capacity from which we say, the mind of God, the form and formlessness